Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to whoever is in the world you are streaming. Live with you on Twitter, as well as those of you joining us at some point on the YouTube channel. Time is it? 8:51 p.m. Pacific time on a Sunday. Hopefully catching some of you before you head to sleep for the work week tomorrow. Figure we go live here as this game in Houston is a 26-point affair with less than 9 minutes left. So just keep an eye on this as we do the show tonight and go from there. But other than that, give you guys an opportunity to join the chat. Okay, now I can see. Sorry, there's always some tech here. You know, there's always there's always going to be a tech issue. Okay, I'm good. But no, for those of you that are somewhat new, it's a new stream here on Late Night with Wob with a new computer, new signal, all the above. So we should be good. Did I forget to enable the chat? Oh no, there we are. Okay, sorry, it takes a minute. All right, wild weekend in the association, people. Come with your questions. Any of these games are available to discuss. Wanted to get a jump start before people started going to bed on the East Coast, but last night's game between the Nuggets and Timberwolves, I feel like still requires top billing. I will start off tonight's show. Where is everyone in the chat, by the way? I can only see a couple of you. If you're watching, say hello. Otherwise, I'm going to think there's something wrong with the stream. Or is the timeline just that quiet right now? I got one chat. Arsh Kaler, who says, the Lakers lost me 5 bills today. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, now the chats are, I don't know why they were glitchy like that, but am I ready to admit you were wrong about the Raptors? In what way? Be more specific. What's up, Royal Purple? What's up, Stony? All right. Yeah, I'm sorry. The messages were a little delayed coming in. All right. Where to begin? You guys can pick the topic. Otherwise, we're going to discuss Nuggets and Timberwolves. So I didn't go. I told you I wasn't going live I wasn't going live on Saturday because I had dinner plans unless something crazy happened. Would you consider what happened last night crazy or just eventful? Like, I wouldn't necessarily declare that as a drop everything, change your entire weekend plans to go live after. And honestly, waiting for the Anthony Edwards news this morning, now we could have a little bit more nuanced take as to what's going to happen in this series. What's up, YouTube? I said Wob started the show and JJ's not sitting LeBron yet. Is he still out there? Oh, he is still out there. He's going to play until pretty much the 5-minute mark. So he's got 3 minutes and 22 seconds left because they're down by 24. Okay. Yeah. So we need to, real quick, I will lead off tonight's show by saying with conviction that the Denver Nuggets are going to win this series. They are my champion. They are 11-point favorites. 11-point favorites with Game 5. And I'm curious. I posed this poll on chat or on Twitter earlier. Hold on one second. Just so I can show you guys properly. Why is this? I'm trying to learn this new select. Okay. I'm on a new system here, so bear with me. So tomorrow, here on ProfitX, they're up to 11.5 now. 11.5, the Denver Nuggets favored in Game 5. So some of you may be younger. Some of you may be rather new NBA fans. Some of you, like Steve Helwer, can remember every single dribble of every single game. And I have not forgotten what the Denver Nuggets did with 2 of the most memorable 3-1 comebacks in this generation of basketball's history. And it was Jokic and Murray. It's in the bubble. Against Rudy Gobert specifically in the Utah Jazz and Donovan Mitchell. What Jamal Murray did to those dudes down 3-1 is the reason why now in 2026, I have not even hesitated in changing my mind when I declared that night, if Jamal Murray pulls off this series against Donovan, he will be my favorite player in the league until the day he retires, and that has not changed. Because the Denver Nuggets are oftentimes faced with moments like this, where their backs are up against the wall. They are left for dead, and all they do is resurrect. Now, this is a different team. There's different circumstances. There's travel involved. You're going to have to win a game in Minnesota. But I'd like to pose this question to the chat. Thank you, Carly. Carly knows ball in the chat. I put a Brinks truck on Jamal Murray and the Denver Nuggets in that series because I was adamant as well as willing to declare my hypotheses with conviction that the Denver Nuggets were going to come back to win that series, and I'm doing it again. Now, it's even easier for me this time. If you go to the series price of, they're down 3-1, right? The way that shit went down last night, Aaron Gordon might be suspended. There's no way they're winning this series. Guys, they're barely underdogs right now here at ProfitX. You can catch them at plus 123. It's almost a coin flip. Why do you think that is? Well, we start with the Minnesota Timberwolves don't have Anthony Edwards or Dante DiVincenzo. It's unfortunate we have another non-contact Achilles injury. It's going to keep him out probably through all of next season. Anthony Edwards has been banged up for the end of the regular season into the playoffs. He's been questionable on almost every single one of these injury reports for the last month and change. Would you rather have the series be 2-2? This is if you're Minnesota, and we're only talking about this series specifically. Would you rather have the series tied at 2, but you have Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo healthy and in the lineup? Or would you rather have a 3-1 lead where those two guys are not going to be participating in the remainder of it? At this point now in game 4, every win obviously is incredibly valuable. And the only comparison that we can make is when the Golden State Warriors watched Steph Curry get hurt against Minnesota, of all teams. They ended up winning that game 1 because it was the Buddy Hield game. They ended up winning that. And at the end of the night, I remember all Warriors fans like, yeah, we got the win. We're up in this series, but they were already planning their vacation. Oh, who did Bronny James just throw an alley-oop to? What's his name? Tiro? My God. He just threw it down on someone's head. Go get it, Bronny. Oh, behind the back from Bronny, too. Oh, Jesus, on Dorian Finney-Smith? Get wrecked. Sorry. But yeah, I've not forgotten about the way that Warriors fans were feeling after that game 1 against the Timberwolves last year. It's like, yeah, we got the series lead, but it's only 1 game. You got to win 3 more, and you don't have Steph Curry coming off of that series against the Rockets. It's like, what the hell are we going to do? And I want to ask the Minnesota Timberwolves, what the hell are you going to do if Ayo Dosunmu is not putting up 43 points? What the hell do you plan on doing? You are out of bodies. Like Mike Conley's going to have to be running 25 minutes now. We tap it into that Terrence Shannon Jr. game that he had against the Oklahoma City Thunder, the one time they won in the conference finals. That's what you are relying on to get a W at some point in this series. And Denver has the next 2 out of 3 at home. So that's going to be at altitude. And if they somehow win that game 6 in Minnesota and head back home, they will be double-digit favorites going into game 7. This series is not over. And I understand that Denver looks slow, old, and uninspired. And quite honestly, they deserve to get embarrassed last night. Their lack of athleticism without Aaron Gordon is put under a spotlight when they play the Minnesota Timberwolves. Whether it is Jaden McDaniels, what was Ant and Dante DiVincenzo, Rudy Gobert, Randall. I mean, my God, guys. Everyone out there you feel like has unlimited turbo compared to the Nuggets, who prefer to slow it down, play in the half court, and execute out of pick and roll sets. You're joking in the chat, numbskullery, that we're getting Joe Ingles minutes in 2026. Everything's on the table now for Minnesota. If they get destroyed tomorrow night, like the bookmakers are predicting, and they have to go home to close out, the pressure goes right back on them. And you don't need to tell Minnesota sports fans about either having leads, having the team that is established, built equity throughout a series and exploited an opposition's flaws, faults, and susceptibilities in all sports, hockey, football, and basketball, baseball. They have blown more leads and not gotten to the finish line more than any city that I can think of. Where are they going to find offense, but more importantly, that athleticism that has differentiated them from the Denver Nuggets? They have better athletes. They turn the pace of the game up through the roof. And traditionally, the playoffs is played in half-court sets and the pace slows down considerably. But Minnesota is refusing to let that happen. They know if we get into a rock fight in the half-court set against Denver, we can't out-execute them. Honestly, nobody can, even Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City's going to beat them with their own athleticism, with their own live ball turnovers leading to secondary transition and fast breaks. They're not beating them because Shea is going to outshoot Jokic and Murray, that they're going to run better pick and roll action. Where is the athleticism going to come from outside of Jaden McDaniels and Julius Randle? That is my question moving forward for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Who is going to continue to create that one major advantage that you have over the Denver Nuggets? Now, yesterday, everyone was feeling the gem. All right. But they're about to reset. They're going to get on a lot of planes. They're going to go a mile high. And if they get spanked up in Denver and they have to come back home, all of a sudden now Io knows I'm going to have a usage percentage around like 25 for game 6. You start thinking about things. Not saying he can't do it again, or if that was an outlier performance, because he's certainly capable. He's got pretty damn decent talent, clearly. But I wanted to lead off tonight's show by saying this shit ain't over. And yeah, you could get your jokes off on Jokic running across the floor to confront Jaden McDaniels, running faster than he did all night, getting back on defense. Jamal Murray chucked up a shot earlier, just a couple of seconds prior. You know, there was no real reason for Jokic to stir the pot like that unless he was trying to brew up some bullshit and get some guys suspended. The problem is that it might be his guy in Aaron Gordon that ends up getting suspended. And after that, we saw the angle there. The ruling is going to come at what I assume some point early tomorrow if Aaron Gordon is being permitted to play in this game. But the NBA in the past has been set a precedent of being very strict when it comes to guys that leave the court to participate in altercations. Now, Aaron Gordon just made it past the half-court line. He didn't run in there like it was Jeff Van Gundy versus P.J. Brown and the whole reason why this rule exists in the first place. But he did break the rule. It's just a matter of if the NBA wants to enforce it. And also, we heard from David Adelman following the game that he said, I shouldn't have put Aaron Gordon in that spot, honestly. We're going to have to make a decision on what we do with him in game 5 because he probably shouldn't have been out there. Now, he went out and scored a whole bunch of points in the first half, but didn't return to action. And he is turning into the most important player on that team, not named Nikola Jokic or Jamal Murray, especially without Peyton Watson. I ask again, Denver, like, where are their athletes? We had this conversation after game 3, but without Aaron Gordon or Peyton Watson, who do they have on the floor to be able to run with those pups? The answer is like Bruce Brown and Christian Brown. Donnie suggests Naz Reid is going to be that dude. Naz Reid is going to be the guy to create and supply the offense for Minnesota. And boy, did he struggle down the stretch of the regular season. So he's going to have to shoot the ball at a clip. 100 possessions or so is what you anticipate in a playoff game. Randall, Dosunmu, and Naz Reid are all out there for 35 plus minutes. I can't buy into it, especially in Denver against that team that came back against the Clippers and the Jazz. They've been here before, and there is no more valuable currency than experience in the NBA playoffs. This team knows what to do when they are in this exact scenario. So with Aaron Gordon, he may not play regardless. And this is an opportunity for the NBA actually to use Aaron Gordon as an example to make a point, knowing that Denver's probably going to bench him anyway. So why don't we just suspend him? I know the Players Association won't be happy about that because if you're suspended, you likely lose a game check. So you're taking money out of their pockets. But I could see it going either way. Because this has happened in previous altercations where guys leave the bench, but they go as far as like the 3-point line. They run to the basket, then they run back to the bench. In the NBA, it doesn't suspend them. But that was a violation of the rules. And if Aaron Gordon's not available or healthy in any form, that is going to be detrimental to Denver's chances to come back. So either way, I do think Denver wins game 5 without Aaron Gordon. You try and get him right for game 6, and then you go from there. But I wanted to take an opportunity to tell you all that the Denver Nuggets are winning this series the same way that I bet a fucking Brinks truck, one of my biggest investments of my life, on those Denver Nuggets 3-1 comeback. And I'm telling you, it's happening again. I wouldn't be saying that if Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo were in the lineup, but this Timberwolves team is even more banged up than Denver is now. And you still have to find a way to win a game. 2 of them are going to be at altitude at Ball Arena. Good luck. Denver wins the series in 7. What else? What else am I missing? Well, Jane McDaniels, you got to put him in the shit-talking Hall of Fame after what he's done. I don't know if they're going to close out the series or not. I just predicted they won't. But after what he did last night, I mean, you just got to indoctrinate him immediately to shit-talking Hall of Fame because he has backed it up after itemizing each of those Denver defenders, calling them dog shit, and then going out there and playing like this. Like those words normally is used as bulletin board material by your opponent, but it's actually been kerosene on their fire. They are now rallying around him to prevent him from being the one who gets embarrassed for talking too much shit. Like, in a weird way, it was actually beneficial for the shit talking team for the first time in a long time because that stuff almost always comes back to get you. If the whole wait. Oh, and last thing, by the way, you got to give Rudy Gobert, no matter what happens the rest of the series, that he's still able to influence Jokic this much. What was that stat I saw? Like 6 of 26 as a primary defender. Jokic's inefficiencies from the field. He's still putting up box score statistics, but that's because his usage is through the roof. Like, Rudy Gobert has defended Nikola Jokic, I would guess, thousands of times, considering international play as well as the NBA. Right? He's had thousands of possessions against Nikola Jokic. And he's seen that same pick and roll because he's been burned by it so many times. And for him to go out there and continuously make Nikola Jokic look mortal, not the best player, the unanimous best basketball player on earth anymore, is pretty damn notable. But we are not writing off Jokic. We are not demoting him. until this series ends. I refuse to believe a team that has been in these trenches winning a championship together is going to go out like this. Not with Jokic having the best statistical season of his entire career, in which he has 3 previous MVPs. They're not going out like this, man. I'm willing to put. They're not losing game 5. I'll put my reputation on the line that they're not going out like this. I know it sounded out of pocket back in the bubble against Clippers and the Jazz, but now that they've done it and they're champions, man, there is a reason why that number is so short. Those tall towers in Las Vegas did not build themselves. But yeah, Gobert has been something special, but they're going to fall short. And I think I would rather the series be 2-2 and have Ant and DiVincenzo as opposed to being up 3-1 without those guys. We have seen some crazy swings in this rivalry. Was it not just 2 years ago? Helwick, correct me if I'm wrong. Minnesota wins the first 2 games. Denver wins the next 3. And then Minnesota back-to-back 6 and 7. And then they come back from 20 points in game 7. Like, you, until the final bell rings, you cannot count out either of these teams in this series. They're going to continue to swing, and there's going to be huge volatile swings, as there always is, which is why this is becoming the best rivalry in today's game. It started with just good hoops, but now it's getting a little personal. And I thought Jokic running over there to stir shit up was trying to get some guys suspended. I think he's sharp enough to know that if I run over there and I run up on Jaden McDaniels, maybe I'll get him to swing on me. Right? This is the Jokic that knows how to walk the dog, that he manipulates the clock so well. He's thinking, like, I'm going to go over there and show you up for showing us up. And maybe one of you dumbasses swings on me. I have a feeling that was his motivation for doing that. Not just like he's tilting and pissed off because he decided to make a layup. Jokic is too smart. He knew that Jamal Murray shot a 3 just a couple of seconds prior. And he's always the one that's like, bro, it's basketball. Don't, it's like, he's very rarely petty without it being justified. We've seen like the Markieff Morris thing. He thought he got hit in the back. Was it a dirty play? Of course, but he always has a reason for doing something. He never just like gets emotional. So if I was like, and he's not that Machiavellian either, I just think he's sharp and he wanted to go over there and see if he can get some guys suspended. That's all. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to read some chats now. Kashi DeWolf says, we have Terrence Shannon Jr. Okay. I wish you the best of luck. It's going to be Naz Reid, Dosunmu, and Randall and McDaniels. And then probably, like, who's the 5th piece? Whoever that 5th piece is, Conley, to just calm things down and set the table. Whoever that 5th piece is already going to be left wide open. Bones Highland. The Nuggets did not have an answer for Io. Is it Ao or Io? I always get that wrong. They don't have an answer for him. Well, I'll disagree because Christian Brown should be that answer and Peyton Watson should be that answer, but obviously one's banged up and the other has not lived up to expectation. Max says we got 3 tries to get a Bones revenge game. That's the problem here. The Bones revenge game is going to cost them a game if he's trying to go off and send his whole team home for doing him dirty. That's what's going to end up costing. You have one more chance at home, man. 2 of these games are played in Denver, and they're going to be heavy favorites. And you know they're getting the whistle, too. The NBA wants this shit going the distance. Liquid says Murray and Joker clearly don't want to make a run. They don't even look like they want to be in the playoffs right now. Okay, explain to me why. What do you know about the way that they're feeling that you have to type that into the chat? If the Hawks win game 5, will I shed real tears in your post-game video? No. What is with you people? Why are you always all so hyperbolic and prisoners of the moment? And like you go up 3-0. I thought the Rockets were supposed to just put their tail between their legs. And now we got to fight. Well, an NBA fight. Marcus Smart's involved with like Tyrese, and I think they're just yapping. Okay, it's being broken up. Yeah, I thought Houston was just supposed to put their tail between their legs and limp into the offseason. Right now they're out here skirmishing. We got ejections all over the place. They're going to head back to Los Angeles. Kevin Durant could return. And this series isn't over either. Do you guys remember when the Celtics were down 3-0 and they came back? They were like slight underdogs down 3-0 when an NBA team has never pulled off the 4 straight win comeback. But yeah, what is like you guys think one loss, if the series isn't over, there's always a chance to come back. And I'm telling you right now, if I was the Denver Nuggets specifically, and I told you that you're going to lose game 4, you're going to go down 3-1, but Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo are 2 chess pieces that come off the board, I think they sign up for that, despite their backs being against the wall. Yeah, plus 120. Can you believe it? Plus 120 is the number at ProfitX practically. Plus 123 is the Denver Nuggets. Now, I wouldn't recommend taking that because you can likely get a number live at some point in one of these games when the Denver Nuggets are down in like the second quarter. They may be underdogs, and you just book them to win that game as opposed to betting plus 123 to win the whole series. Then they got to win 3 games. So just wait for a spot live where you can bet the Denver Nuggets after they're down by like, it's the NBA, man. Both teams are going down by like 15 points at some point. And when they do, you can hop on to the Nuggets then. We'll get to these other games. Thoughts on the Raptors? Do I think the Blazers can still get one more win? No. Do I think the Pistons are finished? Definitely no. Jokic is demoted. Even if they come back, that's a ridiculous take. All that will do is just fortify, cement that man's greatness if he does this shit again coming back from 3-1. FR double. Do you think the Lakers don't mind extending the series and give more time for Reeves Luka to return? That does not matter. They're scheduled to play. They would play the Thunder next Saturday or Sunday, I believe. So no, it's not a tactic to get them healthy. It really won't influence unless the series runs really long. It won't influence the start time of the next series. So, of course, they want to take care of business as quickly as possible. But Austin Reeves was upgraded to questionable with his oblique injury before tonight's game, ultimately ruled out, probably the right call. And now the problem is, now that Houston's got to win, are we going to see Kevin Durant back in Los Angeles? If Kevin Durant returns, everything changes, obviously. He has the most value. He probably doesn't have the biggest VORP number, value over a replacement player, in the NBA. I'm sure there's someone that has a number that's higher, but the eye test would suggest that this entire Rockets team revolves around his gravity. That's simple. Like if he's in the lineup, it's just a completely different sport and game. Oh, there's a good question. Coy is asking me, do I think Embiid might get moved in the offseason? Guys, do you know how fucked this team is? Do you have any idea how fucked the 76ers are? 76ers. Hold on. 76ers salaries. You guys see this shit. Look how fucked this team is. I would consider them to be number 30 or 29, unless Milwaukee's probably a little worse. Okay. Look at these numbers on the books. Can you guys see this? Look at this shit. Joel Embiid, his money goes up to $60 million next season. 64.3 to $69 million in 2029. That's 3 calendar years away. This man's going to be making $70 million. That Paul George contract, which the Clippers rightfully let him walk for, he has that blue over here in 2028 is a player option. After what we have seen from this guy this season, is he still a formidable role player that can be a third wheel and a sidekick? Sure. At $56.5 million? Tyrese Maxey is getting his rookie max scale extension. He'll be on the books next year for 41. VJ Edgecombe, being the number 3 overall pick, is still making $11 million. He's going to have to get his extension in the year 2028. So you are going to have 60, 115, 160, 170. I don't know what the salary cap number. They're almost already there with their 4 players. So that means they're going to have to find another version of Quentin Grimes and Kelly Oubre because they're not coming back for 8.7 and 8.3 million. You're going to have to pay them a raise, and that's money you don't have. Guys like Kyle Lowry come off the books. You can figure out what to do with some of these cheaper deals like Bono, Edwards, and Watford. You can keep them on there. But tell me how this team improves as long as Joel Embiid is making that number. And considering where he's at in his life and career, it's unfortunate because some of these injuries are just bad luck. But what he looks like right now and his availability, what's it going to look like in 2029? You can't win an NBA championship when your 2 highest paid players are both zombies. They are. The only situation worse than Philly is Milwaukee. And that's because of Damian Lillard's stretch and wave zombie contract. I would say Milwaukee is the least desirable job. If you were a general manager who got to pick the team that you want to manage, OKC would obviously be number 1, San Antonio 2. And then 29 and 30, I would have Philly and Milwaukee. Especially considering Giannis is probably going to get traded. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean. And oh, by the way, so let me talk about this game really quickly, if you wouldn't mind, and I'll keep going to your chats. I tweeted this out. Let me just, Spurs, by the way, first team in NBA playoff history to trail by 15 points, 15 plus points at halftime, and win by 15 plus points. Here's the stat. Here's the stat I wanted to talk about. Right here. So in this series, I understand Philly is an inferior opponent to Boston. But when you play the Celtics, every game is a math equation, as I so eloquently state. Game 1, just on the 3-point line itself, Boston plus 36, which means they made 12 more threes. They ended up winning that game by 32 points. Look how these almost always directly correlate with the exception of game 3. Plus 36 from beyond the arc, win by 32. The game where they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat, shooting 53s below 25%. They lose the game by 14. They were minus 18 from beyond the three-point arc. This is what we call variance, okay? Variance hits teams differently. And when the Celtics lose, it's usually because they are colder than ice. But since the NBA playoffs is 4 out of 7 games, they are not going to be ice for more than probably 2 of them. So how are you winning those 2 other games if the Celtics are your opponent, where they have a 24-point advantage in game 3 beyond the arc? That obviously means they made 8 more threes than Philadelphia. They win that game by 8. And then tonight, they are plus 45 beyond the arc. They make 15 more threes, shooting, I think, 52 or 56 was the total tonight. 52 three-point attempts, and they win the game by 32. So when you play against the Celtics, you're playing against math. They are going to, since 3 is worth 150% of 2, you have to think about before tip-off how you're going to make up those points in which you're already down double digits on the scoreboard and you don't even know it. Where are you going to make up those points? Usually the answer is at the free throw line. You would hope someone like Joel Embiid can punish their thin interior, their inexperienced interior, but Neemias Queta, despite getting 2 quick early fouls, was sure standing tall. This is why the only team, in my opinion, that can beat the Celtics in the East is the New York Knicks, because of how their guys get to the free throw line. And then you hope that your perimeter defense has elite athletes with experience to close out without fouling. And when Boston finally misses, chat, what do long rebounds equal? I just gave you the answer. I'm a fucking idiot. What do long shots equal? Long rebounds. So when you have a dominant rebounder, the Knicks have 2 in Mitchell Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns. When you are shooting 30-foot shots, that ball does not just softly come off the rim. Sometimes it hits the back, the front, the side, and it shanks, and it's 15 miles an hour out to the three-point line. Boston can get away with having 5 out, 0 in offense, and then they crash because do you know how difficult it is to box out when someone is starting 30 feet away from the rim and running straight downhill? You have to get in front of those guys, and they know exactly, because they get to see the ball bounce, they know exactly where it's going to go, and why a team that has no one on the interior, unless Queta's out there, is able to create so many second chances. And if they get the offensive rebound, it's fucking over. You're lucky if it's only a Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown layup or free throws, because then you go into scramble mode and they're going to get someone open in the corner for 3 at some point. Everyone is just grabbing whoever's close to them. There's mismatches all over the place. That is what they do. Oh, and if you want to slow things down and take away the three-point shot, if you're good enough to actually do that like the Knicks, then they have the Jays. They have Tatum and Brown that can break it down off the dribble. They have a demon that is one of, if not the best grenade launchers in the game's history. Grenade launcher is someone who gets handed the ball with like 2 seconds left and is forced to throw up heaves. Like, how many is Peyton Pritchard going to make in one fucking season? It's every single day ending in Y, and that's not an exaggeration. So they do so much well. I mean, so much well. But above all, as long as the three-pointer is worth 150% of a layup, you have to beat math. And the only team out there designed to force Boston into one of those game 2 inefficiencies is Oklahoma City, because of their hockey shifts of point of attack defenders that can switch all screens, defend positions 1 through 5, and disrupt rhythm. No one is built like OKC. Maybe San Antonio with Steph Castle and Vassell and Wembanyama, of course, protecting the rim, but it's a completely different dynamic. Philadelphia never stood a chance. Even after winning a game, you have to assume that Boston's going to have 2 stinkers out of the 7, and those are the 2 that you have to win. But where do you win the 2 remaining others? How do you get those points to make up for the minus double digits that is inevitable? It is guaranteed, with the exception of those 2 games. Good luck, man. Nobody gets up and makes three-pointers like this team. It's what they did en route to a championship. It's what they were doing en route to repeating until Jason Tatum goes down. And it's what they're doing again. This storyline had taken a back seat because Jason Tatum got hurt. They stripped down for parts trying to get underneath the second apron this offseason. They had an ownership change. It looked like they were having a gap year, but nothing changed with Joe Mazzulla ball. They're still out there running the same system, but they're just plug and playing guys that were third stringers last year now step into higher usage roles like Jordan Walsh and Sam Hauser and Baylor Shireman. These guys have all been perfect Celtics for this particular system because they are able to catch and shoot off of a star player's gravity to perfection. We have an official update from Ime Udoka in the postgame press conference that just said Kevin Durant is considered day-to-day and could return at some point in round one. So there's an extra travel day coming up for this series. It is Sunday. I don't believe they play again until Wednesday. But my point here with the Celtics, people, is even with Joel Embiid out there returning, like, God bless him for hurrying back after such, a serious surgery. But I just don't know who can beat the Celtics with the exception of one team in the East. Detroit is going to be at such a disadvantage against these guys if that's somehow the conference finals 1-2, because the Detroit Pistons have no outside shooting outside of Duncan Robinson. And we know Cade is meant to be the spearhead of the offense, not a guy that's getting up 15 threes a night. Like, where do the Detroit Pistons find enough offense to keep up with the math? They can hardly create enough offense to keep up with the damn Magic right now. So I wish anyone luck that's got to play this Celtics team, man, because they have a game plan that is flawless because of its personnel and roster construction. There are teams that try and replicate what Boston did and does now, but you are not the Celtics. The same way you try and replicate Steve Kerr's motion offense in Golden State, there's only one team that can do that because only one team has Steph Curry. Only one team has Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum surrounded with elite catch-and-shoot three-point guys. And their two centers, Neemias Queta and Vooch, they can both play down on the block. They can both operate outside of the paint, whether they shoot the three or not. Everybody's comfortable with their role. And this is an assembly line offense of efficiency. Sorry for yapping. More questions, please. YouTube. First comment I read in YouTube is from Radical Tadpoles, who says, I'm assuming you don't even give a single fuck about the Celtics win, and we'll talk about it for all of 5 minutes and move on. How does that taste? Bitch. Well, I became a Nuggets writer? No, I'm just a Nuggets visionary, truth teller that is not going to let you forget what they accomplished in that bubble in all of those years. A 3-1 deficit is nothing for them, considering their opponent and how banged up they are. All right, I'm going to go to the Twitter. Let's see. I know you guys are asking about all of these games, and I'm going to try and bounce around as much as possible because it was a wild weekend. I wonder if we'll ever see a reverse sweep. That's interesting. Honestly, I guess I was going to say if anyone is prone to it, it's going to be the Lakers, but the Rockets would obviously need Durant back, but Austin Reeves is going to be returning soon. So this Lakers team is not as dire. Their situation is not as dire as it was at the beginning of the series where Reeves and Luka were out. Now they have the comfort of a safety net of a lead, of a 3-0 series lead. So they could take their time with Reeves. And if Reeves comes back, it changes their entire dynamic as well. So it's not as much of a worry. I don't think they're nearly as vulnerable as they were at the beginning. Jace Move says, thanks for that tip, Wob. When I hit, I will have my family thank you for their upcoming vacation. I think you're referencing my Nuggets take. But again, I'm not saying bet the series. I'm telling you to wait for a game where the Nuggets fall behind by double digits and then betting them to win that game. It's almost inevitable with the volatility of score differential in 2026 NBA. Both teams are going to be down by double digits at some point. It's very rare to have a wire-to-wire victory. That is correct. The games are scheduled already, yes, for Thunder and Lakers. If that's what it ultimately is, unless somehow Rockets Lakers go 7, they would push it back. That's the only way. We need a statement on Klay Thompson. Why? I mean, he's a A-list celebrity dating an A-list celebrity. They can hook up with anyone they want at any point in their lives. They have everything, access to everything. They were probably both cheating on each other for all they know. I don't know. Like, just because she said it first and then he followed it up saying she cheated on me. It's just like, who said she said? They're probably both guilty. They're both A-listers. Of course, they're all flirting around and doing shit. Why would you not? You're Klay Thompson and Megan the Stallion. The amount of which I care about that is minimal. Talk about CMB. Colin Murray Boyles. I could argue is the most important player for the Toronto Raptors right now. Obviously, their best player is Scotty Barnes. And how about that 8-second violation they forced at the end of the game? Is it true that the Cavaliers did not have a single defensive rebound in the final, 6 minutes or so? 5, 6, 7 minutes? That's ludicrous. Now, Evan Mobley had a couple of offensive rebounds, but they couldn't clear out a single defensive possession in a game where nobody could score. The Toronto Raptors just won a playoff game shooting the lowest field goal percentage ever in the play-by-play era. You still lose that game? And I know the question was originally about CMB, but can I just state this is why you will never, ever find me supporting nor believing in a team that has James Harden on it. Two things can be true. He is an NBA 75 player. He is a worthy MVP, a deserving regular season MVP. One of the best, most creative and innovative, even if you don't like it, offensive players that the game has ever seen. But when it comes to the playoffs, which is being officiated as a completely different sport right now, everything that he does well is completely nullified by the enforcement of physicality in the rulebook. All that made him so great, he does not get the same whistle and be able to utilize the same advantages, and he does not live up to the moment as a result. I will never forget what Jonathan Simmons did to him. The Spurs were so comfortable resting Kawhi Leonard. We're going to let Jonathan Simmons guard James Harden in Houston that night, and how he just melted into the floor. I'm like, for the rest of my life, I will never trust him as far as I can throw him. And the problem is he will have a game like the 50 ball with the Philadelphia 76ers against the Boston Celtics where you're like, oh, all the Harden doubters and haters. Like, man, that's not the problem. Harden will give you some big playoff performances. It's just never going to be 4 out of 7, and it's most certainly never going to be in a game 7. He just is irrelevant. He is a siphon of movement in these final moments. He provides nothing. He is a gargoyle out there, playing hot potato with Donovan Mitchell. He turns the ball over like a madman. He falls over so much looking for calls that this isn't even a statistic. The amount of times that James Harden falls over or falls into the crowd because he feels contact and he's hunting for a whistle, when he doesn't get it, he's putting his team at a disadvantage and they have to defend 4-on-5 for about 10 seconds before he gets back. So again, two things can be true. He is someone that should be applauded. He should be put in the Hall of Fame. His MVPs were no accident. But when it comes to the playoffs, a product in which the final score of that game in Toronto were the same as halftime scores during the regular season, he's playing a different game with different rules and arguably a different sport. Never trust a team that he is on. It will save you money, it will save you time, and it will save you a lot of anxiety. He will never, ever win a championship as one of the two highest usage players. Can he sign on at the end of his career the way that, what was it, T-Mac went to San Antonio or something? Tried to do it that way. Guys used to sign with the Warriors just to sit at the end of the bench so they got a ring. Like, he could do that with someone in the future and technically become an NBA champion. But as long as he is one of the two highest usage guys, that team will never, ever win anything important. Now on the Raptors side, Evan Mobley got cooked by Colin Murray-Boyles. And when I say cooked, that's not like, oh, he took him off the dribble and he's fucking dunking on him. I'm like, no. The noticeable difference in these two's motors and desire, like Colin Murray-Boyles defending Donovan Mitchell out on the perimeter as on an island as a primary defender. He's the most important rebounder on the Toronto Raptors because Jakob Poeltl can't be out there for more than 15 to 20 minutes. Poeltl was much more efficient from the field today, by the way, but we can all see the difference. So Colin Murray-Boyles is tasked with being a stretch 4, sometimes even a 5. He's tasked with clearing out defensive possessions because this whole Raptors team is a bunch of swingmen and Scotty Barnes type builds, Ingrams and Barretts, like your 6'7", 6'9" guys. But Colin Murray, someone's got to get up there and beat Evan Mobley for a tough rebound occasionally, or Jared Allen. And the way that he is able to clear out the glass just provides such a luxury for a team that normally doesn't have it unless Poeltl is on the floor. So you get the athleticism and his defensive versatility, where he can defend one of the clutchest shot makers in the playoffs, the antithesis of James Harden. He can also out-rebound two of the biggest centers in the Eastern Conference. That Swiss Army knife of a defender, I would argue, makes him the most important player on that team, considering how their roster is constructed. No one else is rebounding, defending, and rim running like him because Scotty Barnes is being tasked with a lot more superstar type of responsibilities. I'm not saying that Colin Murray-Boyles is the best player. Again, that's Scotty Barnes. And RJ Barrett's been having himself one hell of a series these past couple of games. But the most important, that probably serves the most vital role, has to fulfill the most vital responsibilities for this team, that's CMB. He is a menace out there flying around. Bill is asking, who even takes Embiid? Who wants him? There's not a chance Joel Embiid would ever be seen as an asset on an open trade market. It's at the point now that Philly would have to attach assets to get rid of Embiid because of the size of his contract. If Joel Embiid was making $20 million as opposed to almost $70 million, he would be seen as an asset. But how much you make matters, especially when it comes to your pricing and the negotiations on a trade block. Think of what you would have to trade. There's only so many players out there making that type of number that are super max worthy. So that's got to be a super legit player. So I'm trading that guy for Joel Embiid. Like for that to happen, you're going to have to incentivize me. The only time I could think of where two teams were able to start dating, they met each other and they said, we're both kind of screwed here. Let's make a deal. That was Westbrook and John Wall, right? Where both teams were like, you know what, we might as well just flip these guys and see if we can make it work in a new setting. Joel Embiid and the 76ers are going to have to find a similar partner that just throwing their hands up and they're like, we might as well just swap these guys and see if we have ourselves an Edison Volquez, Josh Hamilton trade back in the MLB days. Two guys that were left for dead. They stunk on their teams. They switched and they became like the most important employees at work instantly. Why isn't CMB starting yet? I like to think that Darko likes having Pirtle out there at the beginning of the quarters because that's been his rotation. He's been staggered at the beginning of quarters because if he's on the floor when the Raptors are in the bonus, he's going to have to shoot free throws. No bueno. So get him out there. And as the fouls pile up, he comes off the floor, CMB comes on, and then you don't have someone that the other team's just going to keep hacking and forced to beat them at the free throw line. Carly says the Sixers are playing against math. If math had a jersey number, what would it be? Yeah, I think 3.14 would be Pi's. Yeah, that would easily be Matt's jersey number. Peyton Pritchard. Got it. Yes. Do I think Philly has a chance to win another one? Absolutely not. I think I did predict Boston in 5. It was either Boston in 5 or Boston in 4. I think it was 5. I gave Philly just one game. And it was because I thought they might have one game where they stink it up from 3. And they did. Breetro in the chat says, I'm not going to get my hopes up, but I think Houston can get 2 more wins if they play like this. Yeah. I don't know what's up with Reeves. Even when he returns, you have to think he's going to be on a minutes restriction. But if Kevin Durant returns and he's able to run 35 plus minutes, of course, the dynamic of the series changes completely. Carly, I love that you're doing Punderdome all by yourself. Fuckboy8085 says, I just hit you with an honest question in the YouTube chat. Well, why don't you do it here too? Why don't you put it on both? Okay, well, now you got my attention on YouTube, where 5G3 asks, can the Raptors replicate what was done tonight on the road? Well, role players play better at home. And there's no coincidence why the Minnesota Timberwolves were running laps around the Nuggets. They just get gassed up with that energy. Everyone's comfortable. They shoot better. They're sleeping in their own beds. They have routine and rhythm. That is usually the explanation for why teams are favored at home. So can they do it on the road? Certainly, but it's going to be under different circumstances, and it's not as easy as just replicating what you did in Toronto. I'm the Sin says Harden will come through this year. At what? Buying drinks at the strip club? Or are you talking about basketball? You're going to need to specify on that one. Why is the chat so quiet tonight? Is it because it's a Sunday? Would you guys have been more passionate and inquisitive if we did a show last night instead of tonight? Were you hoping for a show last night? You can still ask those same questions now. Is Bradley Beal still alive? He's still cashing those checks like he's Jacoby Ellsbury. That man had the most control of any player in the NBA with that no trade clause on a supermax deal. I get to pick my team. I get to pick what I'm traded for. I get to pick this and that. I might as well own a piece of the team. He can drop one good game like he did a few years ago against Boston. He will. James Harden. This is why James Harden is James Harden and why he still has believers. Because he will drop a game where he goes bonkers. And everyone's like, see, I told you Harden is legit or Harden is misunderstood. No, he's not. he will give you 1 or 2 games per playoff series. And I can promise you that game 6 and game 7 will look like the game 7 against Denver last year every single time. And even in the one instance where I'm proved wrong, that he finally has a decent game 7, that's 1 versus 1,000. Do that shit for 5 straight years, and maybe we'll start getting towards even money. You'll get your money back. Certainly not going to be profitable. Christensen says, Robert, I was late, so sorry if I missed anything. Any feelings like KD is soft? More than you already thought? What? Because of this series? You started off so well with that. What is that question? Why are you accusing me of calling him soft, first of all? Number 2, why is he soft? Because he has an actual injury and he's not playing? We can't be doing that. I need a more specific reason why you think he's soft. And for everyone that said he wasn't with the team, he wasn't sitting on the bench, he hates these guys, there's a difference between joking about his burner activity versus him getting treatment so that he can expedite his return to the lineup, people. YouTube is Harden just mentally weak? Like, no. James Harden is a gym rat. James Harden is one of the strongest players that has one of the best work ethics and a reputation amongst players and coaches in the league. It just does not equate to him winning games when they matter the most. It's not mentally weak. He's just not good at his job in specific scenarios. It can be that simple. Did I talk about Shea's game? Guys, I mean, what more do you... how someone discusses SGA is the easiest barometer of whether you should be talking ball, talking shop with someone. Just ask them what they think about SGA, even before we begin our conversation. It could be about, honestly, something outside of basketball. Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, sir. What's your opinion on Shea? Oh, he's a foul baiter. Like, that's the easiest way to just like, thank you for letting me know that I should not waste my time with you. It is so easy to tell the people in the media members who are chronically online, don't watch games, and just get fed their talking points from group think exercises. Because what Shea Gilgeous-Alexander does on a nightly basis is destroy teams with his unique offensive creativity. He won Clutch Player of the Year on a team that most of the time, it was more than last year, but most of the time doesn't even have to show up in fourth quarters. That's how good he was when he actually had to. How many game winners does this guy have to hit? How many ISO sets in the final 5 minutes, which is usually 15 possessions, does it have to result in a bucket from either himself or creating for someone else? There's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples of Shea being better at basketball than pretty much everyone else on the floor. But the only one that goes viral is the one time that he goes for like the rip through hook, which, oh, by the way, James Harden practically invented. Chris Paul and fucking Kevin Durant, they're all doing that rip through shit where you're grabbing someone's arm because the defender has an extended arm. You're trying to run through it and then shoot through it. Everyone's been doing that shit. And to say that like Shea invented this, or here he goes again, that it's proprietary to just him, is so utterly lazy. Does he embellish? Yeah, absolutely. Everyone embellishes. And they would stop embellishing if the referees would stop rewarding it. But there are times when he's not getting whistles. For example, I don't need it. I don't need it. When he's screaming that shit at the camera, he's implying that I don't even need the whistle. I don't even need the N1. I'm still going to get buckets regardless. And he's going up against someone who has more familiarity against him in Dillon Brooks than arguably any defender on the planet outside of Oklahoma City and in those practice gyms. Dillon Brooks has seen him coming up through Canadian hoops, international, Team Canada, playoff series, regular seasons. If anyone knows his tendencies, it's either Dylan Brooks or Nikhil Alexander Walker, his cousin. So I just don't know what else Shea has to do to prove to these mainstream sports fans that are just looking for the easiest lightning rod conversation possible. You don't need to engage with everyone. In almost everything that Shea does that people critique is either edited to support their agenda or their narrative. It lacks context of other plays leading up to a moment. And it's usually void of all the other great shit that he does around that one play. And considering how high a usage that he has, of course, there's going to be a moment with him and every other star where you can catch him doing something unethical. But to suggest that all he does is foul bait and shoot free throws is such a blasphemous, egregious, and incorrect statement of slander that you shouldn't even be dignifying them with a response. How can you, anyone who watches the games can see that this dude is unstoppable in these half court sets. Doesn't mean you have to like it. You can be like, man, I just don't like the way this guy plays. That's fine. People think that way about LeBron and Harden, and there's some guys who aren't nearly as popular as others. That's just the way of the world. Doesn't mean you have to like it. But don't you dare sit here and say that he is like manipulating the rule book to like steal MVPs or cook the books. He is the best player on the floor at all times, with the exception of Victor Wembanyama and Nikola Jokic. All around players. But if you need a bucket, if your life's on the line and you need a bucket, how many guys are you taking before Shea? If you have one chance in a game of one-on-one to get a bucket, how many guys are you taking before Shea? Not many. And you think they just they're blowing all these teams out by accident? What are you watching is usually what I'm thinking. I'll never, something about me, it's probably a character flaw, but how I don't respect you is I'll just leave you on red. If I don't think you're worthy to respond to, the way of me telling you that is with silence, that you're not worth my time. And when I'm presented with a take, or I hear or see something from someone that's either credentialed, legitimate, and it's along those lines, they are telling on themselves. So I will not go out of my way to correct anyone. I just won't give you the attention that you're seeking out because it is so far from the truth. It's not even, you are someone who doesn't want to be convinced or corrected. You will never change your mind. It's the way the world works. People can find enough evidence, find an echo chamber to support their cause or their claim that I knew I was right. See, this justifies it. This cements it. This proves it. Or I have this group over here that agrees with me. So therefore, I must too be right. I promise you, you're not. At least in this case. But yeah, you don't have to like him, but don't ever sit here and say that he is not an incredible talent with a skill that he displays in mass volume every single night that other players cannot replicate. Well, that's part of the thing. So Mush LGP in the chat says people hate that Shea is not Ant-Man. People love Ant-Man because he has bravado. He is authentic. He is genuine. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He has character flaw moments like he's had on social media. He recognizes it, says, "Ah, shit, I fucked up." He takes, I don't want to say he takes accountability, but he at least recognizes, like, "Oh shit, I was ignorant and I'm just going to kind of move past this." And there's something, at least there is some honor. They say there's no honor amongst thieves, but there is honor, I think, in 2026 with people that can recognize things when they messed up. So just his real attitude plus how he plays the game of basketball ethically, his athleticism, the way that he leaps, he dunks, he plays defense, how much of a leader he is, how he's been growing and improving some skills that have been quite honestly detrimental to the Timberwolves championship ambition, but he gets better every single year. First, it was the three-point shot, then it was navigating double teams. He's gotten better at both. He's incredibly popular because he's relatable. People look up to him, they idolize him, especially kids. He's got really cool shoes. He's brandable. Putting his jersey on like makes you feel cool. And meanwhile, you have Shea, who, in some people's opinions, tries too hard to be cool. The way that he dresses in the post-game press conferences, and him and the OKC Thunder are like throwing towels on Nick Gallo's head, and they're all being, like college kids after a mid-major victory in the middle of November, the way that they do their post-game interviews and stuff, right? Like, oh, that shit's corny. Because what they do, a lot of people don't find to be as intriguing or attractive as some of the stuff that Anthony Edwards is doing. And because Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is not Ant-Man, per the comment in the chat, people feel let down that, like, you're the best player and you should be as cool as him. Now I kind of hate you, because that's the way some people's brains are wired. Because you have not lived up to my desire. I want to like you, but you're making it so difficult. And when this gets perpetuated by bad actors who are pushing agendas about his style of play to contribute to lowering his popularity, it all just kind of comes together in the echo chamber that is Twitter and social media. So Shea's popularity, I will agree, is nowhere near Ant-Man's. But if we're talking about strictly basketball skill and the application of fundamentals, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is in a class of his own in the backcourt. He's in a class of his own for backcourt players. I would really only put Steph Curry, who's a completely different style of player, as someone who is uniquely talented as much as Shea. Because in the front court, it's Jokic and Wemby and, Giannis and all those guys. But backcourt players, it's like Steph, Shea, everyone else. What else you guys got? Ghost Panda Storm says, I love watching SGA. His mid-range game is beautiful, among other things. How he gets to his spots, how he creates space. He's able to use his forearm. He's learned so much about not extending that forearm, but he uses it as a shield, and he knows the rules. That forearm is part of the body as long as you don't extend it. So to see him like dribbling and creating just enough space, man, it's so tempting to push off. And the times that he does push off, he's been ruled. They even got him in that game at the end of the regular season. Was that against Detroit, where he hit the game winner, but it was ruled an offensive foul, and it was really fucking close, but they called it? Like, when he extends, he gets the whistle blown on him. He's not getting any special treatment. Ryan says, I think the real frustration with the Thunder is that it just feels like they are officiated a little differently. Obviously, feelings are not reality, and I agree overall with you here. And you're right, Ryan, with your take in I do believe the Thunder are officiated differently, but that is intentional and it's designed by Mark Daigneault in this defense. And I've spoken to players about this, active as well as former. And I talked about this with RJ. I talked about this with Cam Johnson, obviously Antonio every day, and some former players, that training the referees is a real thing. And what the Thunder do. Oh, and Sam Mitchell brought this up when he was playing with the Pacers in the 90s. And he said, let's start with that one. So when the Pacers and Knicks had their rivalry for those years, like 5 or 6 years, he was like, listen, Wab, we were better. We were more talented than them every single year. But what the Knicks did so well was train the referees with Pat Riley's style and Jeff Van Gundy's style of rock fights and trench warfare that the referees just got tired of blowing the whistle after the first quarter. So they're gonna call a lot of fouls. But New York is going to get you, the Knicks were going to get you so accustomed and familiar with that physical style that those calls will slowly dissipate over a 2.5 hour span. And that's the case with Oklahoma City as well, because they are grabbing, they are blasting through screens, they are doing shit that other teams get whistled, but because they are so relentless with their physicality, a lot of that 50-50 stuff does get through. And when you go to the playoffs and you draw a Tony Brothers, who's notorious for letting all sorts of shoulder checking and shoving people in the back during rebounds, man, you got to show me blood for me to blow a whistle. That only favors a team that wants to play, is familiar with playing with that level of physicality, like Oklahoma City. So it's going to always favor them in the playoffs. That is the common denominator with the style of play versus the regular season, is that physicality is granted much more leeway. And OKC is taking advantage of it as they are making a mockery of the Phoenix Suns. They are going to sweep the doors off of whoever comes out of the Lakers and the Rockets. They're not going to lose a game before the conference finals. And then they'll end up playing a San Antonio, a Denver, Minnesota, like whatever. And that'll be a little bit more of a challenge. But they are favorites for a reason. And they do as good a job as anyone at training those referees for Oklahoma City style of defense. They get a different whistle, undoubtedly, but it's not because they're treating Shea like the prom king. That's the easy, low-hanging fruit narrative take. But the training of the officials is the correct answer. You better believe that defense is doing that. The same way voter fatigue exists. People just get tired of voting for the same things and they want to try something new. It's a natural thing in politics as well as anywhere else in society. NBA MVP voting has voter fatigue. There's whistle fatigue. I'm tired of like every single time there's a screen set. This game would take 4 hours if I blew the whistle every time there was contact that was 50-50. The refs are not going to do that because then it's going to destroy the product. And I have told you, because I know a piece of information that I learned about and how referees are being graded this playoffs by the executives at the referee union, the referee association, are judging the referees on calls that they get wrong. So they are encouraging you to not blow that whistle unless you are sure, the result of which is if it's 50-50, whistle goes back in the pocket. What's up, Shep? Shep says SGA has greatest individual season last year when because first guy since Shaq to win finals MVP, regular season MVP, and scoring title, and comes back the next season and is better. Same with Jokic too, yeah. YouTube says no rational person is saying that Shea isn't a great player. I don't like watching the whole OKC team because on every possession, one of their players hurls themselves to the ground and it gets rewarded. Again, that's on the referees. They can choose to not blow the whistle and reward embellishment. YouTube, I'm reading your comments. If you have anything, feel free to ask. Great J Box says, after the injuries to the Timberwolves, do you think the Wolves can win game 6 at home on Thursday to close the series? If so, what do you think their rotations and game plan will be now? That's how we let off tonight's show. And no, I will repeat myself for the crowd that's arriving later that I'm telling you the Denver Nuggets will win this series. They will win 3 straight games because of the Ant and Dante DiVincenzo situation that's going on, as well as 2 out of 3 games being played in Denver. And I think they'll get Aaron Gordon back, hopefully for game 6 and game 7. That changes everything. Potentially Peyton Watson can get involved if they go to a game 7 too. The rotation is going to be quite questionable. So you're looking at Naz Reid is still going to have to come off the bench because you have Randall and Gobert starting. So Naz Reid is likely still only going to play minutes between 25 and 30. Let's call it 25 and 35 for Naz Reid. That's not in the 40s. So Gobert, Randall, Dosunmu, McDaniels. Do you start Conley just for a veteran presence? Do you let Bones Highland go out there and be Gen Z J.R. Smith? Is it Terrence Shannon Jr. time? There's so many question marks, man, against a team that goes down like Leonidas against Xerxes. Good fucking luck. I've got the Nuggets, and there's a reason why they are slight underdogs at the worst still to win this series. I know it's very easy to get caught up in the emotion of the moment. And what everyone was feeling inside a Target Center last night was fucking euphoric. But this specific series between the Nuggets and the Timberwolves in the last 3 or so years has had some crazy swings where one team wins 2 games, the other team wins the next 3. Game 7, you're up by 20, they blow the lead, one of the biggest comebacks in playoff or at least franchise history. It's not over. I sat here in 2020 while I was doing this exact show from a gas station. Remember that shit where I spent the week at the gas station because of the nor'easter? And I was pooping in the woods with the bears, and I'd come back to talk to you guys in the car. Sat there and told you Denver's going to come back against Utah. They may be down bad, man. They came back, and they're going to do it again for the 3rd time. Ryan says the 50-50 calls have always been my gripe. Never SGA. He is generational. Thanks for taking my comment and the breakdown here. I feel way more informed now. Never knew that's how players felt. You got it, Ryan. Who would the Spurs prefer to play in round 2? J. Darms 79. That obviously would be the Timberwolves. Ant-Man's going to be out for weeks. DiVincenzo's done. You got the walking wounded right now. Easily the Timberwolves. Denver comes out of this series, they're going to the finals. I'll tell you that much. They're the only team that can beat OKC. San Antonio's not going to beat them in the playoffs, though. I know they had success against them in the regular season, but different sport they're playing right now. Like, how do you watch these games? How do you watch these games if you, I assume many of us, if you're still watching this show this late, you care about basketball, which means you watched regular season games. Like, how are we ever supposed to take anything away from, in totality of a regular season? There's going to be certain examples, performances that matter, and you can use to like remember things that happen when they flare up in the playoffs. But how are we supposed to ever like take the regular season seriously when it's officiated differently, when the stakes are considerably lower, there's load management, there's just such a drastic gap between the two products. Because what we're watching right now is incredible hoops. This has been an A+ of a first rounds that we have, and we're barely halfway through it. These games are fucking bangers. They are killing each other out there, killing each other. Everyone is live. The 1-8 matchups, with the exception of OKC and Phoenix, all the other matchups felt like the lower seeds either have a series lead or have a puncher's chance. Until tonight in Philadelphia, like even 76ers thought they probably had a chance to get another game or two in this series. Atlanta thinks they're alive. The Magic think they're alive. The Timberwolves are on the doorstep. Portland thought they were alive before they went back home. The fact that I understand the playoffs is different is disappointing. That you don't think Denver is at serious disadvantage against the Spurs. Well, I would point to a playoff game that was completed between the two at the end of the regular season. I know that's an oxymoron, but we all saw what happened there. It was all hands on deck. There was playoff stakes, nationally televised, Amazon Prime, Jokic Wemby. I saw all I needed to see. That's the closest thing that you will get to a playoff game in the regular season. It's a good question. Who's going to stay in Portland if the ownership group's only paying $1.5 million? I shout out to Tiago Splitter, by the way, for remaining professional because, I mean, he's had a pretty successful season thus far, campaign getting this team to the playoffs, but it's ultimately going to end with them winning one game in the first round. They just lost their draft pick because they made the playoffs. It was nice that Denny Avdia got this experience, and Drew Holiday's been killing it. Donovan Clingan getting some playoff experience. All that shit matters, but Dundon's going to be trimming the fat. He's going to be trimming the fat like when there's a big merger in tech. Like if there's ever a merger in tech and you have a job at one of the companies that's being either consolidated or combined, you're likely going to get fired. There's just layoffs across the board because they had to pitch a price to either public investors or a board. And the easiest way to do that is to remove personnel. So they're going to strip down for parts. Well, the problem for Donovan Clingan in this series, it's not that he's unplayable. It's just like the matchup. He can't guard Wemby. Wemby's he's the one guy that's bigger than Donovan Clingan, and he's 10 times as fast. He's got 10 times better footwork. He can stretch the floor. And Portland correctly has been assigning Toumani Camara and Drew Holiday to him, that the elephant has been bothered by the field mouse and disrupting his rhythm by getting up underneath him with a faster defender. No one is ever blocking Victor Wembanyama's jump shot, nor are you obstructing his view of the rim because of how tall he is. So you might as well go with someone like Toumani Camara, that if Victor puts the ball on the floor, that's where all of his advantages get nullified. But Victor is so smart that when he's being guarded by Drew Holiday, he simply just keeps the ball above his head, which sounds so easy. You're taught that shit. You are taught that shit. Wait, what's this series at, by the way? Oh, it's off the board. Cavs are minus 425. Knicks are still favored. Celtics are off the board. All right, I was just checking out some of these lines before I clicked off. The Pistons are short favorites. Wow. Let me get back to what I was saying. You're taught that shit in varsity, JV, AAU days. If you're a tall guy, keep the ball above your head so the guards can't get in there and steal it. But no one ever actually does it. This is why the Mikan drill exists. Any of you who done the Mikan drill before, what you're supposed to do, there's a couple of variations of the Mikan drill, but you are essentially shooting layups for like 10 straight minutes. It's exhausting. You're shooting layups, playing volleyball with yourself. You're getting the ball through the hoop and you're getting the rebound above your head, and you're never supposed to bring your arms down. And that's a way to train you to never bring the ball down where smaller defenders can get in there and swipe it. But because the natural human reaction, like our arms naturally just dangle like this and they get tired, that when they get tired, your subconscious says, I should just lower my arms and gather and really wind up and, explode for a dunk. But by then it's too late. The best players, the most, I would say, versatile big men of all time. I think of a Shaq. I think of a Hakeem. Patrick Ewing did it a lot. Rasheed Wallace. And now Victor Wembanyama. Of course, there's more, but they all have one thing in common, and they are so good about keeping the ball above their heads at all times. It's the simplest of trainings, but so many dudes just either forget. DeAndre Ayton is enemy number one. If DeAndre Ayton somehow with his stone hands ever gets a rebound, I will guarantee that ball will go below his belt 100% of the time before it goes back up. He has to like put it in the holster before he winds up and launches. It's horrible. He has zero fundamentals in that regard. But Victor Wembanyama, when he's being guarded by Tumani Kamara and Drew Holiday, is not even putting the ball on the floor. He's just looking down at him, and I'm going to decide to shoot over the top, or I'm going to pivot, put my back to you, dribble out the other way, or I'm going to skip pass, find a slasher. But that ball will never be brought down to a level in which those very sharp all-world defenders can use the tools. I will just remove the tools from the equation. And I thought he's done that so well, at least since his return today from his concussion. Yeah, well, Donovan Clingan's field goal percentage is going to be awful. He's a young player who's just starting to learn threes. It took Andre Drummond a while to turn into a stretch five. He doesn't have the foot speed. The thing with Donovan Clingan is because his feet are so slow, it is the number one requirement for being a relocating jump shooter is to have quick feet. You ever seen, whether it was JJ Redick, Ray Allen, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, their footwork is so solid going from the block to the corner in like 2 strides. And they know exactly, they don't waste any movement or motion whatsoever. They are able to establish themselves in shot-ready positioning. Rui Hachimura does this wonderfully, by the way. He is someone who will go down there and compete for a rebound. And let's say the Lakers get a second chance. He will He will sprint to the corner, turn, face, hands up. I'm ready to shoot. Like within a split second. There is no like meandering, walking over. Oh, I got to look down. Okay, I'm going to pivot. Now I'm ready to shoot. Like I got to make sure my feet are in bounds. It's got to be like bang, bang. And Donovan Clingan right now has no footwork when it comes to relocating. Therefore, he's never ready to shoot. So when he does receive the basketball, his form looks like dog shit because his feet are diagonal. He's not going up vertically, and then he misses. So that's going to take reps. That's going to take practice. That's going to take experience. And he's just young, and it's not there yet. He can certainly improve, but do not over. I never get this right. Do not undervalue. I think it's undervalue the importance of a relocating jump shooting big man. Why do you think Cat's the best shooting big man in the world? That dude is always ready to shoot, and he's so strong, he doesn't even need to jump. He just flicks. The footwork on relocating is so important, especially when you're down there competing for rebounds. You're probably exhausted too because you're in a physical battle. You probably caught an elbow. Now I got to run to that corner in less than half a second, turn face because that ball could be in the air on its way to me before I even turn around to locate it. Do I think the in-season tournament reaches the experience of the playoffs or even the play-ins? It's going to be like 25 to 30 years of, you're going to need an entire generation of kids to believe that the NBA Cup matters. Now, some of those kids started going to games in the past couple of years, and they don't know the difference. If you're a kid, like they're competing, something's on the line, you're not old enough to understand the history and the culture of basketball and the NBA. And like the I saw the NBA Cup when I was little. I think it's important. And then they grow up to be 25 years old, 18 years from now. And they're like, what do you mean? The NBA Cup's a big deal. Like I used to go to those games. And then the old heads will stop in and be like, man, that shit didn't mean anything until recently. So my answer is yes, but it'll take 30 years. I- When the FA Cup was introduced in England, whenever it was in the end of the 1800s, early 1900s, I'm sure it wasn't that big to start off. But now that it has centuries of reputation and honor associated with it, it means something. And when the players actually try to win it, like to their credit that they have been, then it will catch on at some point. Well, Scoot certainly had a bust performance. It's been boom or bust for him this series. He's had some great games, and then he had the stinker tonight. Any other questions? Are you guys just chilling, listening? You sleepy because it's a Sunday? Is it because if I don't do a show after chaos, the chat is always quiet. But if I did a show after last night, the chat would have been popping off with reactions to the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, and Jokic, and the altercation at the end, and this is over. Do you guys need that lightning rod moment to happen to participate in a Q&A, or is it just you enjoy listening and don't want to participate tonight? I get it. YouTube is saying I'm just chilling and listening. That's completely understandable. I just want to make sure you're at the very least still here and I'm not talking to a wall. Punk says I've just been getting shit done while listening. That's fair. As long as you let me know that you're still there, that's fine. And some people use this shit to go to bed too. Like that's fine as well. But this is meant to be a interactive Q&A more than my radio show, which is or like a podcast or something. This is a two-way street, a content democracy. Yeah, this is why I would normally go to the phones after I'm done yapping and there's chats. We would go to the phones to bring in someone to carry the show for a little bit. St. Hayes is asking, what's my take on McDaniel's comments on the Nuggets defense? That he's backed his talk up, man. I think it's that simple. And his words have lit a fire underneath the team that didn't necessarily need it, but has served to be a supplement, like taking basketball vitamins. Popeye and his spinach. That team loves throwing hands either literally or figuratively. And when they get one of their own out there beating their chest, they're going to stand right next to him and hoist the flag, be standard bearers of tough playoff basketball. They love that shit. So this isn't like, man, why you got to say that? Now you put us in this spot. They're like, hell no, I'm right there with you. Hell yes. The low says, sorry, I'm just demoralized from the ref. Can't Steph and Dylan disrupt Jamal enough to throw Denver's rhythm off? Asks Nico. Oh, you're saying in the next round. Steph Castle had, did you guys see that defensive possession he had guarding Tumani Kamara today? I mean, he is like fire feet staying in front of him. Tumani tries to lower his shoulder and blast through him. He doesn't move whatsoever. He beats him to the spot. He almost steals the ball. Okay. Then they get a shot up, miss, rebound, and then Steph Castle just like splatters a ball. and he turned straight to the Trailblazers bench and just, I don't even know if he barked. Castle to me comes off as someone that has like quiet swagger. Like he went up to Denny and put the ball in his chest and he's like, "Here, this is what you were looking for when you tried to hack me a second ago. Here you go, right here for you." And then he looks at the bench and I couldn't tell if he said something because his back was turned to the camera, but he's just like, "Yeah, um, I'm the defense that you thought you had." Portland's got some great individual defenders and Drew Holiday, Kamara, Thibault, Jeremy Grant, clinging in a way at the rim. Certainly not in space. Robert Williams, but he's like, I'm that dude. We're that dudes. Victor Wembanyama is just impossible to score on. Impossible. He has made Denny have to downhill Denny be more inefficient in this series than he's been all season. But Dylan Harper, Steph Castle's defense, and Dylan Harper getting downhill is fucking brilliant. Boy, he is so smooth. How smooth is that kid? The way that he like feels your when he's downhill and he gets to the right hand, when he goes behind the back and he just waits for the right time to feel the contact, puts you on his hip. He can explode and throw down a dunk. He steps back. He's got the up and under finishing ability where he spins that shit off the glass. He doesn't even need to look. Whew, he's talented. How was the dinner date last night? It was fantastic. I had lamb chops, flatbread, went to this place called American Beauty in Venice, and it was delicious. I needed to get out of the house after doing a full week of NBA shit here. Hardly leave the house in the first round. It's just too much to do, too much content. Follow up: have I seen Jokic's all time offensive numbers in the playoffs? They look bad in contrast to all time greats. Let's have the Jokic conversation when his season ends. We shouldn't be doing this whole like let's put his career under review the same way an ad agency would be by one of their clients, like 90-day review, which is the precursor to being fired. We're not putting him under in review until his season's over. Silver Strand says, I've been looking at Luca on the bench and he is not going to play again until next season. He's walking like Biden. I just wanted to share. I don't think he's going to return either. I think that's even worse than a grade 2 hamstring strain. And considering their future commitments to him, I too would agree he's probably done. Talk me out of the reality that that starting last year, at least one of OKC or San Antonio will be in 9 of the next 10 Western Conference finals. Well, there's just too much turnover in the NBA. Even with these teams, like there's going to be a point where they have to start tapping some of their lottery picks because Hartenstein, Lou Dort, they may end up leaving to go get paid somewhere else, and then you got to find someone to replace them. But that's the whole point of having this NBA era of parity, is that you're going to get a lot of roster turnover. So I just don't, even though it makes sense, they're the 2 most likely candidates. It's not a guarantee that those young guys are going to be there forever, but it helps when you have dudes on rookie contracts because then you have 7 years of control realistically over them. The Low says if OKC wins another title this year after all the coverage around how shitty they play the game, the NBA will take years to recover. Okay, you're entitled to your opinion, even though I don't agree with it. If the Pistons get bounced by an 8 seed, will they be content to just run it back next year? No, absolutely not. They fucked up not getting Kobe White. They fucked up not getting Ayo Dosunmu. They chose for Kevin Huerter. They need shooting. They need Malik Beasley is what they really fucking need, and he fucked up. They Malik Beasley with Duncan Robinson. This Pistons team would be, I would think about them completely different if they had last year's Malik Beasley. But because he got to whatever he's up to, nefarious activity that got him out of the league, they're missing an elite floor spacer. They would have the shooting to compete with Boston with if they had Duncan Robinson and Malik Beasley. That would change their team completely. Like Kobe White would have been the most perfect fit. and a desperately needed secondary scoring option because he can go off the dribble. He's a late catch and shoot 3-point guy. I just don't know how you fuck that up. It was so obvious, and it will ultimately be their demise. The lack of a secondary option in 3-point shooting. They have so many guys that you can cheat off of. Javonte Green, they're like, whatever you want to do, bro. Ron Holland, whatever you want to do. Asard Thompson, does he even exist if there's not a rebound or defense to be played? Jalen Duren is turning into Patrick Ewing in Space Jam, or Charles Barkley in Space Jam. He's not a secondary creator. Follow-up to the follow-up. What do I think of the Wolves-Nuggets series? Okay, I already answered that. The execs look at Wemby as a true alien or waiting to see what happens versus just trying to adjust their strategies to deal with some type of overwhelming force. Helwick's joining us. Were you at the game tonight again, Helwick, covering it? Max says, inside the NBA is done. I used to disagree with your criticism, but the amount of ads in this show just makes it completely unenjoyable to watch live. It's become a show meant to make 10-minute YouTube clips. I don't even watch it anymore. It's inside the NBA. I would consider to be the program that I would go out of my way to make sure I'm like available for probably 15 straight years. But part of its attraction and what made it so unique it was a sports variety show focused on the NBA is the way I would pitch it. But when they're on late at night and they have the runway of being able to go as long as they want because all that's on TNT is some repeat of Bones or Charmed or some bullshit, they can just go and go. They shoot the shit. They turn it into a sports equivalent of Jimmy Fallon, Conan O'Brien, David Letterman. That's what the feel that it had. They do all of these pre-produced skits. When they would do like the Jeopardy, they do the Nito stat of the night, and they'd participate in one of like the social media trends, and they'd like do one of those things. All of that stuff like requires, and now on ESPN and ABC, there are strict outs. With ABC, the affiliates need to get to local news, so they cut inside the NBA off after 27 minutes. When it's on ESPN, they had to get out today because hockey is coming on. And these guys are at their best when they can just kind of kick their feet up and turn it into like podcast on TV. That's what made them so, you always felt like you were hanging out with them because of how chill the conversation was. Sometimes they would get serious on things like politics or even Kenny's Pictures with serious NBA coverage. And then they would say some stupid shit, start laughing at each other, and, create a program where you just never really knew what you were going to get. That was the majesty of it all. And that they have been so confined by time, they now have to do Shaqtin' a Fool, one of their most popular skits. They have to do it during the pregame show at like sometimes noon on the weekends. Who the fuck wants to watch Inside the NBA at noon? Like, this is a late night style program that has that ambiance of some shit you would put on before bed. And they know because we're on late, we can say anything. It just doesn't hit the same on a random ass weekday or weekend when the sun is still up. And the consistency of knowing when it's on, because it's so sporadic, they just like appear on TV and then we'll be here for the next 30 minutes. And oh, by the way, do you know how live TV works? If you're doing a 30-minute show, that means you're only on air for 17 minutes of it. So 27-minute show means you're only on air for 14 minutes of it. Wait, 17, yeah. Like we'll say 15 minutes of the 27 minutes. Commercials are the other 12. It's just so like unidentifiable to what it once was. They watch highlights. They'll crack a couple jokes on like Klay Thompson and Megan Thee Stallion that are whatever, fine. But then it just like goes to commercial and the show ends. It has no freedom to just improv and freelance. And because now it's at ESPN and so many of those Turner employees got either laid off, released from their contracts, a lot of the mainstays on the show now work at Amazon because TNT had to strip down for parts. They're producing it out of the Turner studio, but there's not the same crew that it once was. So a lot of those creatives that knew the show, helped build the show, and had the relationships with the talent that can keep them in the loop so that they can produce a segment in a special moment. The producers know ball, and the producers know where to put these guys in a position to succeed. It sometimes requires them having equal understanding of the talent as well as what's going on in hoops. And when you decrease those amount of producers and creatives, now you're just trusting that the talent is going through the production process themselves to get themselves ready for television, and the product just quite simply has not been the same. Let me catch up on these YouTube chats. Um, oh, sexy practitioner. Okay. In the YouTube chat says, I was just having the same thought recently about the NBA Cup. And yes, that's how it goes, Wob. If it's more of a calm night in the playoffs, then the response won't be as electric. Well, I guess I should have gone live last night. Has the Let's Talk Wolves guy shared his opinion on where they'll find enough offense? Well, no, he hasn't been as vocal because his big thing was Karl Anthony Towns, and he's not there anymore. What team outside of Philly do I think needs some major retooling after this round, playoffs as a whole? Like, well, Detroit. You said it yourself. Late night with Wob is for instant reactions. It isn't the same a day after. Isn't this an instant reaction to the whole weekend of games? There was games played today. That Harper dunk in the fourth quarter of game 3 was fire. That shit was nasty. Violence. Every skit on Inside the NBA feels rushed. Segments that would last 10 minutes, but now down to 3 or 4, and EJ will have to mention they are out of time. It's a stake to the heart. Yeah, it's over. I would prefer they just end the show because now it's ruining its brand legacy with the product that they're producing. Any thoughts about the primetime show? Seems like they've been giving them a lot of time post game. No, they have not. Okay. Sorry, let me catch up to Twitter. Helwick says he's in the Toyota Center right now. Marcus Smart just went. Post-game availabilities wrapped up. Good job by you, Helwick. Maybe we'll get a game 6 that allows you to go. Have you been filming? Have you been writing? What are you doing with your credentialed access? Are you just hanging out, shaking hands, introducing yourself to media members? I hope you are putting that to good use. Wob, how do you see your media career wrapping up? Do I have an end in sight in mind? Yeah, I mean, if the checks ever stop coming in, I'll be gone the very next day. I do have ambition to. I want to build something for NBA teams, which is like an internal social media network for game days. It's hard for me to pitch, but I do have an in with a couple of owners that would be potentially willing to finance it. So if I left the media world, I would pursue another entrepreneurial project. What I'm talking about, like an internal. The only way you could access these social media networks is if you are a fan inside the arena. You can share your experience. In the social media channel starts 2 hours before game time and it ends. It just dies. It's erased from the internet 2 hours after game time. This is a way for people to get announcements throughout the game, specials like line updates and bathrooms, and they can share selfies from they can connect with people if they so choose and they want to share their location. There's so many possibilities And this would be a moderated space, so people aren't just saying shit. It's just, it's a utility for fans to be able to. You can also like place an order and go pick it up so you don't have to wait in line, shit like that. I think there's a market for that, and I think there is a necessity for it. And I can't think of anyone better that understands the fan experience around NBA games better than myself. So the day comes that I'm going to eventually pursue that, I would have to leave media to spend full time on it. What's funny is I see more comments in the chat about inside the NBA that they have an option now to go if they want to continue to do post game coverage, they can switch and tell you to go to the ESPN app and we'll keep the show running. And they have yet to do it once this year. There's an option for inside the NBA to actually do that. And they've never once just said, hey, turn on the app because we're going to keep talking and doing our show. It just ends. Earlier, you said that Shea was the best player on the court unless he's playing Wemby or Jokic. As of this exact moment, how do you rank those three? Not MVP, but just who are all the best all-around basketball players? So it's running out of time, but I still have Jokic 1, Wemby 2, and then probably Shea 3. Yeah. Is it a hot take to say NBA free agency is dead and it's all about trades now? Well, most of those big deals are taken care of in season with extension. So you're right that unrestricted free agency has been the nights of waiting for like Kawhi to sign somewhere. LeBron may be a free agent this year, so that'll be a fun one. But even Kevin Durant has usually been signing these 1+1 contracts or 2+1 deals we saw with James Harden, so that there's always an option, right? And they take care of their business before it gets to the moratorium and the unrestricted free agency of July. So that's why free agency isn't nearly as fun. But trade deadline is more chaotic than ever. Playoff experience is overrated, says Helwick. If the Spurs can just whittle away a 15+ point road deficit this easily in back-to-back games. It is against the Portland Trailblazers, though. But that they've done it twice, yeah, of course. But that would not happen against Denver or OKC. Yeah, Steve says I'm writing stories on the Sporting Tribune. Wait, is that a Rash's company? I had 2 from Friday, 2 more coming tonight. Post-game content up on my Twitter. Look at you, little content machine you are. Who else can cover Sam Houston State University, those weekday games, and also the NBA? Only Steve Helwick. I'm Police Chase NBA, you're college football NBA. Oh, good. I just saw Arash, and I just saw him in the airport a couple days ago. Tell him we're boys, because he's a good dude. Inside the NBA's in their Wizards area. Tom Dundon is definitely not one of those owners. No, it should be pretty obvious. I'm tight with 2. Very, very close with 2. But those 2 know the other owners. So anytime that there's a venture like this, it's very easy to get them all involved. Can't imagine a scenario worth it for Braun to leave, especially without Bronny. Yeah. Is he going to take a pay cut, though? LeBron has never taken a pay cut, and he said he never will. He also just can't retire. The NBA is just not going to let him retire. Any thoughts about the Amazon Prime show? It seems like they've been getting them they've been giving them a lot of time post-game. Yeah, because that's not Amazon Prime's a streaming service, or Prime Video's a streaming service. They don't have to worry about kicking it to coverage to an NFL game or an NHL game or in a local news channel. But that show's fine. They're trying to do some shit like Inside originally did. They get to be a little goofy. They have their fun little skits at the end. But their personalities are unfortunately a little just who I don't really like Blake Griffin, his dry humor. Dirk is fine. I'm just like, I don't know if he says anything interesting for me personally. Udonis might be too good for television. He's like someone who just graduated from a J school. Because I've heard what Udonis says on like podcasts and shit. So I'm too in the trenches with him. Steve Nash is super professional, like just too perfect. The personalities are just kind of like, it's fun when they break down the game. I just don't find it to be as interesting as, and it can certainly improve. I mean, look how long it took Inside to develop into what it did. Some shows take 5 to 10 years. And they're just at the very beginning of this. So Inside to me has always been the gold standard until this year. As long as you understand, you know what you're signing up for. If you're looking for X's and O's basketball talk and someone to really like break down the game, that show's not for you. Doesn't mean you have to like write 10,000 words about why these old guys that don't know the names of players should be given a platform. They're given a platform because they're incredibly popular. They're incredibly popular because people like just chilling on the couch and listen to them bullshit about. I don't care that they have a segment called Who He Play For, where they just don't even know the names of the players on the teams. That's like insulting the fan who spends all of this time with knowledge. Like, you're disrespecting the game. No, they're creating content for an audience that very clearly is receptive to it for decades. Those X's and O's people will be surprised about how many people do not care about that shit. There is an audience for it, but let's not act like it is a mainstream appeal for some random person walking down the street to want to turn on a late night show to hear them break down a horn set or 1/4 flat. Ooh, I can't wait until I hear about this. Then break down this pin down screen that Draymond said. Who the fuck has ever said that other than a very small community on Twitter? Just because their voices are loud does not mean they represent the masses. And TV executives know that, trust me. So they are looking for content that is more first take and inside the NBA because it casts a much wider net. All right, chat. We are north of 2 hours on this show tonight. I think we only got to like half the series, but 3 more games tomorrow. I guess we'll save these shows for when something actually happens in the future because they're just not the same. I'm not getting the same response from the chat unless something crazy happens. We can't just like come in here and casually talk hoops. Or I can, but it's just not as engaging with you all. So maybe I'll save these shows for more obvious nights of when there's a much more lightning rod type of night or something that happened like last night with Jokic and McDaniels. So until next time, my friends, it's been a pleasure, and I will see y'all on the timeline. Deuces.